Welcome to CareCast, CareNet's podcast on family, faith, and life with Roland Warren, CareNet's president and CEO, and Vincent DiCaro, CareNet's chief outreach officer. CareCast and more pro-abundant life commentary from CareNet can be found at care-net.org, where you can watch videos, download ebooks, and subscribe to the Abundant Life blog. Now let's listen in on what Roland and Vince have for us this week on CareCast.
Welcome to another episode of the CareCast podcast. I'm Vince DiCaro. This is Roland Warren. He's the president and CEO of CareNet.
Yes.
I'm the chief outreach officer.
Mm-hmm.
Roland, we love to think outside of the box here at CareNet.
Yeah, there's a box, and then we
will
step
out
right outside of it, and then we start.
and then
Now,
we do
inside the box, we don't do any thinking.
No, not at all. We try to avoid that.
We avoid any thinking inside the box.
Yes.
All the thinking must be done outside
Yes,
the box.
we're very avant-garde in that way. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not entirely sure what avant-garde means, but
I think you have to step outside the box.
That's right, to understand it. Yeah, no, we'll use as many French terms as possible today on
That's
our.
right. French fry.
Right. Yes, we're very sophisticated around here.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
as everyone can probably see, and which is great. Again, thanks for tuning into our last episode of CareCast, which was the first one that we had video. So we're going to continue in that.
Inflicting
That pain upon our audience.
Yeah.
Video and audio. So but in just the spirit of thinking outside the box, we like to take stories that might not necessarily seem like they're related to the abortion issue, and actually show folks that they actually are. Because as we know, abortion is a sort of a multifaceted issue. It's cultural, it's spiritual, it's economic, it's emotional, material. It's all these things, right? And so, in terms of our culture, right, there was a really interesting article in the New York Times that was actually about a new study that was done that was trying to figure out what makes people cool.
Yeah.
Right? So they did this, big, huge study with tons of people, and it was international, and they defined 6 characteristics that give somebody the it factor, as we call it. And those 6 characteristics were extroverted, hedonistic, powerful, adventurous, open, and autonomous. So you in your wisdom said to yourself, those are the things that make somebody cool.
Yeah.
Those sound an awful lot like some of the characteristics that somebody would have to have in order to sort of have, celebrate, and promote abortions.
Yes.
Right? And abortion is considered cool in our culture.
Right.
So why don't you kind of talk about how you got there, and then we can kind of look at some of these things.
Oh my gosh, I got to step outside the box.
Yes.
But it's interesting because this study obviously was done to kind of determine like who was cool, right? But you can also use that same framework to say what is cool, right? So if you're a brand and you're trying to say I'm a cool brand, then what I'm doing is that I'm helping people demonstrate or illustrate or promote a particular aspect of what these traits are, right? I'm trying to say, okay, my brand will help you in your extroversion in a way that is relevant, or hedonism, or like help you in that context, or be more powerful, or adventurous, or open. And if you look at the commercials for products that are considered cool, like first one comes to mind for me was like Apple, for example. That whole notion. I remember years ago. When I used to work for IBM years ago, and I remember they had this one commercial that was an Apple commercial, and they had this, I can't remember what the commercial was, we might be able to find it, but there was this one scene where there's all these people kind of sitting, I think in suits and stuff like that, like, IBM, you always wore like, the white shirt and the tie, wingtips, that was like kind of the uniform, and this person comes running in, and they're kind of like a toga kind of thing or theme or something, and they run in and they've got this like almost like a Thor or something, and they take this big sledgehammer thing and they throw it at the screen because all the people in the suits are looking at this like talking head.
Right, it's like a 1984 style commercial
kind of thing and just throws this thing, and then everybody's supposed to you think
blows
about
up the system.
What is that? That's extroversion, right? That's like power. Like this Apple commercial really kind of focused on these aspects, right? These aspects for the consumer, because the whole notion at that point was that Apple is cool, right, and that IBM is not cool,
right.
And so you see, even what they were trying to demonstrate in that ad, these elements, right? As you see this person rushing in, I'm a powerful person.
You're autonomous. You're fiercely independent.
Exactly. Adventurous, open. They're closed. They're locked into this talking head screen. They don't think, quote, outside the box.
Right.
That whole notion. And so, yeah, so whether it's a brand or whether it's a person or any of those things, if you're trying to say that something's cool, these are the characteristics that you see.
Yeah, so I think maybe we can sort of go by one through a couple of these and just kind of talk about how they relate to the abortion issue.
Yeah.
So one of the areas where they said that people who are cool tend to display a particular characteristic. It's hedonistic.
Yes.
Okay, so hedonism is considered, it's one of the things that makes somebody cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with hedonism, pleasure and convenience, right, are number one.
Yeah.
That's your priorities. When you're hedonistic, pleasure and convenience are your priorities in life, right? Sacrificing for others would actually be the opposite of hedonism. Sacrificing for yourself is actually pretty much the definition of hedonism, right? And so, sounds familiar, right? When a vulnerable unborn life is hanging in the balance, you can either choose to sacrifice for yourself or sacrifice for another.
Yeah.
And so the hedonistic or cool thing to do is actually to sacrifice for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a life worth sacrificing.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. You absolutely have that same perspective. And I think as you walk down each one of those, you see that they're very much connected to the abortion issue.
Yeah, for sure. And the other one was powerful, right?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this many times. You actually have your whole power, vulnerability, and compassion framework, and we can maybe unpack that in full in another life chat.
And you can see it in my book.
And in the book right here, The Alternative to Abortion by Roland and Warren. I know.
Yes.
It should be glowing or something.
Yes.
Maybe because it's radioactive. But
yes.
So obviously abortion is the ultimate exercise of the powerful taking advantage of the vulnerable. But again, being powerful is considered cool.
That's considered cool, right? Because it's my body, my choice, not your body, not your choice, both to the baby, the guy, to the culture, everything. It's a power statement, if you will. Yeah, so that's supposed to be cool.
Right, for sure. Adventurous, that was another characteristic of what it takes to be cool, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been given the narrative by the pro-choice movement that having a baby will basically interrupt the adventure that is your life.
That's right.
You can't do X, Y, you can't graduate college, you can't have a good job, you can't have a good career, you can't have wealth, you can't have anything if you have a child when, at some inconvenient moment, right? And so life's adventure will be delayed or possibly even completely derailed by having a child, and therefore you need to have an abortion in order to have an adventurous life and be cool.
Absolutely. And they define adventure in terms of like a self-focused perspective as opposed to another focused perspective.
For sure.
Right? So they take a lens and say, okay, wait, parenting is not adventurous. Right?
Right.
Because that's other focused.
Right.
But abortion is adventurous.
Right.
Because it's self-focused, and I can quote self-actualize.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
The self-actualization piece, I think, is a huge part of that.
Yes.
And I think that's definitely a big part of Apple's whole advertising philosophy over the many decades, actually, right?
Yes.
That you can only be you through the use of Apple products, right?
That's right.
That allows you to self-actualize, and again, that's considered cool.
Cool.
The next one was autonomous,
Yeah.
right? For sure, you could certainly see, again, autonomous is cool, right?
Yeah.
And you can certainly see how autonomy is very much linked to abortion, right?
Yeah.
It's the autonomy actually is really the entire notion that the abortion industry is built around, right? Bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, reproductive freedom.
Yes.
Cool people are autonomous.
They are.
Right? Cool people exercise bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
Uncool people become parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and you think, going back to that initial Apple ad, that guy comes in, he throws the sledgehammer at the screen, right? Those people that are looking at the screen locked in, they're not autonomous.
Right.
But this person is, right?
That's right.
They're powerful, they're autonomous. So you see all of that in the context of this. And that's why, as the kind of where you started, abortion is not just a physical act, it's a worldview. It's a worldview. And as I considered this, I thought, gosh, this goes all the way back to the garden. See, because essentially what Satan was saying to Adam and Eve is, don't you want to be cool? Don't you want to be cool?
That's right. Yeah.
Don't you want to be cool? Now, there's the issue here. It's because you walk through this, you say, well, wait a minute. Okay, hedonistic, in other words, pleasure, pleasing to the eye, good for food. Okay, that's hedonism. Powerful. You take it, you make the choice, right? Adventurous. There's a great adventure waiting for you. There's something that God is keeping from you. Like he's giving you the whole garden, but he's blocked this off. Wait a minute. Adventure starts there. Like this is stopping you from being adventurous. And then of course, autonomy, my body, my choice, my food, my choice. So essentially what Satan is doing in the garden is he's saying, don't you want to be cool? And And this is really an interesting thing, I think, that really spins on the abortion issue, if you think about it, because in this context, Jesus was not cool.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Jesus isn't cool.
Right.
He's not.
Yeah. He sacrificed himself for others.
My gosh.
He
emptied himself of power, clothed himself in vulnerability. Oh my gosh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
He was other-centered as opposed to self-centered, right? And remember when Satan took him in the temptations all the way up to the pinnacle, and he says, "Look at all the adventure you can have. All of these things can be yours." And Jesus is like, "No, adventure, and then also autonomy. I only do the Father's will. Only do the Father's will. I'm here to do the Father's will."
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So this is the point, and this is really the distinction, and why abortion, again, it goes all the way back to the garden, because if your desire is to be cool, then abortion fits into that.
Oh, for sure.
But if your desire is to be holy, that's the
There's
difference.
some coolness they're going to have to sacrifice.
Exactly. And Satan's challenge to Adam and Eve in the garden was, hey, don't you want to be holy?
Right.
Because you can't have holiness apart from God.
Right.
So his question then was, don't you want to be cool? I mean, don't you want to be cool?
Yeah.
And he's selling coolness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating. Every once in a while, though, you get glimpses of hope. And folks might disagree with me on this one, but the new Superman movie actually made a point that was a little bit counterintuitive to this whole thing, because Superman in this movie is kind of presented as kind of this not cool guy, actually. He's kind of like a dork, right?
Yeah.
And there was this whole thing, and I don't remember exactly how it unfolds, but this whole thing about being punk, which is being cool, right? Yeah. But he's just this kind of kind, humble guy that wants to serve others. And he says something along the lines of, maybe kindness is the new punk.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's punk to just be kind.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that's very countercultural right there.
Absolutely.
And so there was I was like, oh, is there a glimmer of hope here for our future by way of a Superman movie, right?
Yeah.
But these are all obviously important cultural touch points. And so it's kind of this very counterintuitive notion that when you actually serve others, when you're kind to others, when you empty yourself and sacrifice for others, those are, at least in this moment, things that are considered to not be cool.
Yeah.
Again, according to this huge international study.
This huge international study, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
I think we should just probably sort of talk about this notion of extroversion, right? Because I think this is where it all sort of plays out in the public square. So you had some interesting thoughts about, again, extroverted is another aspect of coolness, right? Yes. How does that relate to abortion?
Well, so let's start with the garden, right? So Adam and Eve are there. Eve eats, and then what does she do?
She goes and tells Adam? No.
She gives to Adam.
Right, that's right.
She extroverts.
Yeah. Right.
Involves others.
Right.
Like,
she doesn't keep it to herself.
Don't you want to be cool?
Right.
And he eats.
Let's be cool together. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That whole thing. And you see that, right? You see that. So you see that perspective. And so how does that play out with the abortion issue? Well, there's this whole movement about shout your abortion. In other words, hey, you extrovert.
Right. It's all about activism. Which is extroversion.
And also, okay, we want to engage celebrities. Why? Because celebrities are cool, and a way we can extend ourselves, if we will. In other words, like sort of the paragon of extroversion is celebrity. I mean, if you're a celebrity and you never do any media, right, and you never picture, you have to create. That's the whole notion on social media. It's like you're creating this extroversion, if you will. And people are like, well, gosh, if you're not extroverted, then you won't be a celebrity because people won't know you and they won't be able to follow you and they won't be watching your ex posts and they won't. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's this whole notion, and you see this also with the abortion issue. So their whole strategy is, okay, hedonism, yes, got that. Power, yes, got that. Adventurous, yep, got that. Autonomy, yes. But we can't just keep that to ourselves.
Right. You got to shout it.
Right? Here's the fruit.
Yeah.
Here's the fruit.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection of that as well. So, when you think about this issue, it's so interconnected to just, the origin of sin. That's why I've said for years and years that the first abortion happened in the Garden of Eden. It's a physical act that reflects an understanding of perspective of who you are in relationship to God, right?
Sure.
And the role that God plays. It's a worldview that comes out as a physical act,
right?
And a lot of times people just focus on the physical act, But even if you stop the physical act and the person has the same worldview, it's going to come out in another way. You got a way to do it.
For sure.
And that's why Jesus talks about the changing of the heart.
Yeah. Transformation of the heart.
Transformation of the heart. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? That perspective that then moves into your heart, and out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. In other words, all these actions, this desire to be cool, comes from that perspective. And what the challenge is, is that we should have a desire to be holy, to be holy, to be set apart. And when you're set apart, like Adam and Eve were set apart, then what did you have? You had abundance, right? You had multiplication. You had all of these things,
for sure,
which were the people. And I would say just the last thing is that, Tim Keller used to talk about this notion of there's a memory trace, right? That goes all the way back to the garden. Like there's this desire to get back to the garden. Like it's just in us. We just, and
we have a yearning for something that we can't quite put our finger on.
Can't quite put our finger on. Like we yearn for that.
Yes.
And then
C.S. Lewis talks about that too. We're not made for this world.
We're not made for this world. And what does Satan do? He knows that you have the yearning, and then he offers you
cheap substitute.
In this case, the cheap substitute is coolness.
It's coolness, for sure.
Right.
Which also, equates to status, right?
Status and coolness. Yeah. When what we really desire, what our heart's desire, is actually holiness. And when we see holiness, we're like, man, I really want that. But you can't get holiness apart from God. And that's where the rub comes in.
Yes.
So you can get coolness apart from God.
Right.
Because it's defined this way. But you can't get holiness apart from God.
No, for sure.
And that's what our hearts long for. And when you have holiness, guess what? Then you don't have abortion. When you have coolness, you have an abundance of abortion. Because abortion is framed as cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you can really, it really shows you that, this is, again, it's a battle, so to speak, that's taking place on so many different fronts, right? Spiritual, cultural, material, etc., economic. And so we just got to keep praying and fighting and leaning on God and doing what we're doing. And obviously for anyone who has followed CareNet for any amount of time, you can go to care-net.org. We have lots of great free resources there to help you sort of figure out what we call the pro-abundant life movement, what that looks like, what that means, and what you can actually do to turn your pro-life passion into pro-abundant life action. And certainly one of the things they could do is listen to this and watch now.
Yes.
This amazing podcast. That's right. Yeah. I think that's Vogue, right? Is that the thing?
I think that's went down on she was supposed to be cool.
She was, and that's yeah, exactly. So we bring things full circle.
And the real Madonna was holy. Isn't it something?
The real one. That's right. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. There was definitely some intentionality there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I think that was a really, really fun discussion, and we'll just like we said here at CareCast, our idea is to really kind of find those things that are happening in the news and help people see how they're connected to this issue. So we're hopeful that we were able to do that today.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of CareCast. For more pro-abundant life commentary and practical resources, please visit care-net.org. There you can subscribe to the Abundant Life blog, giving you access to videos, ebooks, podcasts, and other resources to help turn your pro-life passion into pro-abundant life action. Until next time, we pray that God blesses you and yours daily.